Are there advantages to aging? Yes, I am Debbi-Jo Horton, and welcome to Advantages to Aging. Join my guests and I as we discuss aging and what makes for a healthy lifestyle, which results in a quality life. Thank you for joining me today. Hey, welcome back to Tips on Tuesday. I'm DJ Horton with the New York International, and what I have going on right now is the amazing Brie with PuroClean, and we've been talking everything disastrous, and maybe not so much. I've met Brie a while ago networking. Surprise, surprise. I, do so much of the networking. But what I really loved about Brie, and Brie has a last name. Her last name is Reed. And what I really appreciated is her thoroughness, right? She really helps to take the time to explain. So I thought, what a perfect person to come on and give some tips. So welcome to this little clip, Brie.
Thank you, DJ. I really appreciate it. And thank you for the compliment. I do try to be thorough when I can.
So PuroClean helps with disasters and restoration. So I know most people are saying, I don't ever want to get to that point, but what can you help us with in terms of what should we know, those important locations of things in our home, should we suddenly find that we're in the middle of an emergency? Like, is there a list of things that we should know where they are, like in an instant?
Yeah. So just want to clarify because some people, when I say property damage restoration, they look at me like I have three heads. So that includes, water, fire, and mold damage, as well as biohazards. So some of the most common stuff we get called for is everyday, small to large fires and water losses that range from, groundwater and major flooding to, someone stuffed a stuffed animal down the toilet and, needs to be cleaned up. So some of the things that, every person should know is in their home, whether they own or rent. They should know where the oil shutoff is if they have oil. They should know where the gas shutoff is if they have gas. They should know where the electricity panel is. They should also know where the water main is, preferably with a water main tag, so that in the event of, a big disaster, usually they're like bright yellow or red, so that anyone who's home kind of knows, because sometimes there can be several knobs and you're like, okay, it's like just wiring a bomb. Like, what am I supposed to do here? So make sure you actually mark it as the water main. And then dryer vents. Dryer vents, unfortunately, can cause a lot of home fires. So knowing, how to properly clean that out. And for some of those, you might need someone, hopefully your realtor, when you purchase the home, or your landlord, when you start renting, can point out where all those things are. But sometimes you might need a professional to come out. I will be honest, I did not learn where any of those items were before I purchased my first home. So guilty as charged, but it is good to know. It's just part of adulting is, knowing where all your bits and pieces in your house are.
I like that, adulting. No, I have to say that most of the homes that I owned, like, I didn't know all of those things. I knew some of them, but not all of them. And if you're away and suddenly there's an emergency, you may have to talk someone through it over the phone. So, or even FaceTime can be like really, really tough. But so let's not get to the point where we're in an emergency. And is there some regular home maintenance that we could do to kind of not ensure that we don't have those things happen, but help to alleviate or catch them before they actually happen?
Yes, one of the things that's really important is the envelope of the building. So that includes the paint, the windows, the doors, the roof, making sure everything is properly sealed, properly insulated. And one thing I didn't learn until about a year ago is that you can actually have a home that is too insulated. That happens to be an issue here in Rhode Island, and that can actually cause even more mold growth or even more issues in an attic or those spaces, those random crawl spaces. So we have issues where if it's not insulated enough, you could get frozen pipes during the winter, at least here in New England. And then at the same time, if it is too insulated, you kind of mess with the environment in the space, and there's not enough airflow, so that can also cause mold. So it's kind of funny how you have to have the right company do the job. We have a lot of issues too with blown in insulation. So that is something to consider. If you do need insulation and you are going to be using a blown in insulation company, you have to make sure that they leave the soffit vents open, because they will just spray everything in there and then they'll block that airflow, and that can cause to other issues, including it can be related to ice dams, water damage, things like that. So making sure that you have your insulation done professionally and by a good company is really, really important. We've had people actually come to our class on ice dams and then literally go into their attic the next weekend and be like, my soffits were blocked. So it's always good to know, what your situation is going on up there. One of the things as well is making sure that you are, if you don't have your laundry in the basement and it's not really somewhere that you spend a lot of time, if it's not finished, making sure you go down there at least once a month. That can sometimes be hard for older people or older family members you might know. So even offering to go, once a month and go check out, your parents or your grandparents or someone's house, and just checking in those areas where problems could occur. A lot of our calls tend to be from older people, and they'll find out that they had mold or water damage from someone else coming into their home. And when we ask them, do you know what happened? They'll be like, I don't ever go down there, so I have no idea. That can kind of, mess with things. And usually it means that it's going to be more expensive to clean up or take care of. So just checking on the space, making sure nothing obvious is happening. We do also have some clients that actually put cameras in their basements or, other areas of their house that might not be very accessible for them. Just so they can kind of keep an eye. Obviously, if you have a very small water issue or mold growing behind your hot water tank, you're not going to be able to see that from the camera, depending on where it's located. But if anything big happens, like a water main break, or it goes out or something like that, you should be able to at least catch it on camera so you know when it occurred. There's also these really cool alarms that they make now. I actually have one at my house. It's a water sensor. So we have it hooked up to our cell phone so that even if we were traveling, if a bunch of water started coming out of our tank at once, we would get alerts on our phone. And they also, I believe, contact the fire department, if I'm not mistaken. But I've heard it go off, and it is very, very, very loud. So everyone will know something is happening at your house. So that's a good little extra tool that you can have. And it's amazing how much water can pump out of a home when it's a going. It can cause a real mess real fast. Not to mention, you're probably gonna have an extra high water bill that month.
Exactly.
Can
So those are some things I didn't even know. I had no idea that you could do such a thing. And unfortunately, emergencies do happen. And I've unfortunately had it happen in my home. But when is the appropriate time to call your insurance company? And kind of a two-part question. So
Mhm.
when should you call them? And then if they tell you you need to use this company, do you have to do that, or do you have the right to choose someone that you want to work with?
Good question. So I would say first, depending on your disaster, obviously, again, my example of someone, putting a stuffed animal down the toilet, you're not going to call emergency services for that. But of course, if you did have a kitchen fire or something very unfortunate like that happen, always call emergency services first if they're needed. If it's not a situation where you need emergency services, or once they've cleared the scene, if you did have to call them, I would personally call my insurance agent right away just to make them aware. Also, a lot of companies, to get started with you, are going to want a claim number on file, just in case if they do provide any work, that they know that they have a guarantee that they're going to, get paid by the insurance company. But you can absolutely choose your own company. An insurance company cannot require you to go with anyone else. What we find is, with a lot of captive carriers, they do have, and other insurance companies as well, is they might contract with specific companies, and they can require them to go out and at least take a look at the scene, kind of almost treating that other restoration company as an adjuster to some regards, kind of getting the lay of the land for them, because they're not sending someone out to the scene. So they can have those people, go to your home, but ultimately you decide who you choose. Some of the things that I always tell everyone, regardless of whether or not they're going to use PuroClean, to consider is to want to make sure that they're working with a company, especially if it had anything to do with, water, mold, smoke, damage, anything like that. You want someone that's IICRC certified. There are different certifications for water, fire, and mold. So a company that has those certifications, at least that they have trained people doing the job. You also want to make sure that they're bonded and insured. It is semi-alarming how many times I have heard someone who is not insured for restoration work and is not IICRC certified brag about getting a huge commercial job. And it's kind of terrifying that they were able to do, millions of dollars of work with not being properly insured for those jobs. You also want to make sure that they background check their employees. That is very, very important as well. You want to make sure that you have someone safe coming into your home and that you feel comfortable. And then after that, I mean, if you have time, again, depending on the type of emergency, I always recommend looking at reviews. What I tell a lot of people that I work with is that, you always want to have a company in mind and have someone that you trust and respect and, will take care of you before anything happens. Hopefully nothing ever does, but, it's good to have someone in advance because you don't want to be the guy sitting there, Wednesday, 2 a.m., standing in 2 feet of water, scrolling through Google reviews. That is not the time to find a restoration contractor that you feel you can trust.
Yeah. Did I not tell you she was a wealth of information? So as we wrap up, what if someone has an emergency, or maybe it's not an emergency, but it's something that they've been looking at for a while? How would they contact you?
Yes. So if you're located in Rhode Island, we are the only franchise location in Rhode Island. You can reach us 24/7 at 401-737-4329. And we also have PuroClean throughout the nation. So if anywhere you are, if you want to get in contact with the local PuroClean, you can call 800-757-7876 and they'll connect you with the closest location to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I hope these tips were well worth your time and listen. And they'll be up if you have questions. I'll be tagging Brie in the post, so you can always just ask the questions and then she'll be able to get you some answers.
Do you think one of the biggest advantages to aging is all the knowledge we gain along the way? Me too. What did you learn today? Share with me in my Facebook group with the same name as this podcast, Advantages to Aging. Now hit subscribe so you don't miss all the tips to come in future episodes.